The fluorescent lights of Thompson & Co. hummed like angry bees above the open-floor office, casting a cold, sterile glow over rows of identical cubicles. The air smelled of stale coffee and day-old donuts. That particular corporate aroma that seemed to seep into the very soul of every office building in America. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Dallas skyline shimmered in the afternoon heat. But inside, the air conditioning kept everything at a precise 68 degrees. It was the kind of place where ambition went to quietly die, buried under spreadsheets and performance reviews. Emily Carter had worked at Thompson & Co. for 3 years, and in that time, she had become one of their top account managers. At 27, with auburn hair usually pulled back in a professional ponytail, and green eyes that could dissect a contract faster than most lawyers. She had earned every promotion she received. Her clients loved her. Her numbers were impeccable. She arrived early, stayed late, and never once complained. The small tattoo on her inner forearm, usually hidden beneath her blazer sleeve, was a simple design. A stylized gear with the letters IH beneath it. A gift from her father on her 18th birthday. A reminder of where she came from. But today, that tattoo would change everything. Before we continue, if you believe in treating people with respect regardless of how they look, if you believe that hard work should matter more than appearances, make sure you like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Subscribe to the channel and comment below telling us where you are watching from, because what happened to Emily is a reminder that karma always finds its way. Chad Thompson III had inherited the company from his father, and his father before that. He had never worked a real day in his life, but he wore his authority like an expensive suit, which he also wore daily. When he walked through the office, conversation stopped, not out of respect, but out of fear. He had fired 6 people in the past month alone, each time finding some small infraction to justify his cruelty. On an otherwise average Tuesday, the air conditioning had failed in the conference room. Emily, presenting performance metrics to a major client, had removed her blazer without thinking. The meeting went perfectly. The client signed a contract worth $3 million. Emily walked out feeling triumphant. She did not see Chad Thompson standing in the hallway, his eyes fixed on her forearm. The call to his office came 30 minutes later. Chad sat behind his executive desk, fingers steepled like a villain in a bad movie. He did not offer her a seat. He simply pointed at her arm and said, "What is that?" Emily looked down at the tattoo she had carried for nearly a decade. She explained it was a family symbol, something personal, something that had never affected her work. Chad laughed, but there was no humor in it. He called it a gang symbol. He said he did not employ criminals. He told her she had 10 minutes to collect her things and leave the building. When Emily tried to protest, to mention her record, her clients, her 3 years of dedicated service, he simply raised his hand and said, "Security will escort you out." She left that building with a cardboard box in her arms and tears burning behind her eyes, not because of the job, but because in that moment, she realized that no amount of hard work could overcome some people's prejudice. What Chad Thompson did not know, what he had never bothered to learn, was that Emily's father was not just any Iron Horseman. Mark Carter was the supreme commander of the entire organization, a man whose handshake could move mountains, a man who had built an empire not on fear, but on loyalty, on brotherhood, and on an unbreakable code that said you always protect your own. When Emily called her father that evening, her voice cracking as she told him what happened, Mark listened in silence, and then he said 2 words, "I understand." A week later, Chad Thompson arrived at his office to find something unusual. The parking lot, usually half empty at 7 in the morning, was full, but not with cars, with motorcycles. Hundreds of them. Harleys lined up in perfect rows, their chrome gleaming like a metal army at dawn. Chad's hands trembled as he walked toward the building. Standing at the entrance was a man he did not recognize. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a leather cut that seemed to carry more authority than any suit Chad had ever owned. The patches on his vest read, "Supreme Commander." Mark Carter did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. He simply introduced himself as Emily's father and asked if they could have a conversation. Inside the conference room, surrounded by 15 regional commanders from across the country, Mark laid out exactly who Chad had insulted. He explained that his daughter had done nothing wrong, that the symbol on her arm was a mark of family, not criminality, that firing someone for their heritage was not just wrong, it was illegal. He then placed a folder on the table. Inside were the names of 37 corporate clients who had business relationships with Iron Horseman-owned companies. Companies that Thompson & Co. desperately wanted as clients. Companies that, with one phone call, could make or break Chad's quarterly numbers. Chad's face went from red to white to something close to grey. Mark did not ask for Emily's job back. His daughter had too much pride for that. Instead, he made 3 simple requests: a public apology, a donation of $100,000 to an Equal Opportunity Foundation, and a company-wide policy change that prohibited firing employees based on personal tattoos or symbols. Chad agreed to all 3 within 5 minutes. 1 month later, Emily Carter started her own consulting firm. Her first 3 clients were companies referred to her by her father's network. Within a year, she had surpassed Thompson & Cohen's in revenue. Chad Thompson III watched from his corner office as his empire slowly crumbled, one lost client at a time, never quite understanding how a single tattoo had cost him everything. So now we ask you this: have you ever been judged at work for something that had nothing to do with your abilities? Have you ever been made to feel less than because of how you look? Comment below with the words, "Character over appearance," because Emily's story proves that the people who judge you by your surface are often the ones with the ugliest souls underneath. Sometimes the mark on your skin tells the story of where you come from. And sometimes, the family behind that mark will remind the world that loyalty and love are stronger than any corner office. Never judge someone by their tattoos. You just never know whose daughter she might be. It's a lesson Chad Thompson III was about to learn the hard way, because life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them, or when you think you're completely bulletproof. Chad Thompson III sat behind his executive desk in his corner office, overlooking the Dallas skyline. He was the picture of corporate success, arrogance practically dripping from his tailored suit. Thompson & Co., his family's firm, was his playground, and he played rough. On an otherwise average Tuesday, Emily Carter walked into his office and seeking an opportunity, a chance to prove herself. She was bright, driven, and undeniably qualified. But Chad saw something else, something he thought he could exploit. He made a proposition, a deeply inappropriate suggestion that Emily immediately shut down. "I'm here for a job, Mr. Thompson, not a sleazy backroom deal," she stated firmly. Chad, used to getting his way, laughed. "You'll never make it here, Emily. Not without playing the game, everyone does." Emily, refusing to compromise her integrity, walked out, defeated, but not broken. What Chad didn't know was that Emily Carter was the daughter of Mark Carter, a man who lived by a code, a man who had connections, and a man who did not take kindly to anyone disrespecting his family. Mark was a regional commander for the Iron Horseman, a nationwide motorcycle club known for their loyalty and their, let's say, unconventional methods of resolving disputes. A week later, Thompson & Co. released its performance metrics, and they were less than stellar. Chad, feeling the pressure, needed someone to blame, and Emily Carter's rejection still stung. He decided to publicly smear her, hoping to salvage his reputation. But word travels fast, especially when you're messing with the wrong people. Mark Carter heard about Chad's actions, and, well, he wasn't pleased. He paid Chad Thompson III a visit, not to threaten, but to enlighten him. "Mr. Thompson, I understand you've been saying some unpleasant things about my daughter, Emily," Mark said, his voice dangerously calm. Chad, and recognizing the patch on Mark's leather jacket, the stylized gear with the letters IH, suddenly realized he'd messed with the wrong family. "Mr. Carter, I didn't realize," Chad stammered, suddenly sweating. Mark smiled. A chilling, unpleasant smile. "Consider this a friendly reminder that actions have consequences, and that some things are more important than performance metrics, like respect." The next day, Thompson & Co. issued a public apology regarding Chad's behavior towards Emily Carter. They also pledged $3 million to an Equal Opportunity Foundation. Chad Thompson III was quietly demoted. His corner office is given to someone more deserving. And Emily Carter, she got a job offer, a real job offer, at a competing firm where her talent was valued, not exploited, where her name and reputation were celebrated, and her father never again had to show his face. Karma, as they say, is a biker. You never know whose daughter she might be.